Hello. We are about to have a conversation that I think, is the future and the present, because in regards to how we do business and entrepreneurship. What do I mean by that? The world is motivated by the bottom line, mostly because you go into business and you want to make money. And that is a good thing because we need money to survive. But there is more to that. There is another layer of responsibility that even as we innovate, as we do business, we have to think, not to put it at the back of our mind, but to bring it forth actively. How does your business impact society and the general well-being of the society at large? This is the conversation we're having, and it touches on social entrepreneurship. Now you ask yourself, what is social entrepreneurship? Why is it important? All those questions we will answer, and also how you can apply some of these key principles on matters social entrepreneurship. And lastly, we'll also talk about, there is an annual conference that is happening on matters social entrepreneurship. This is actually the 7th one that will be happening this year. How you can get to participate so that you can become a social entrepreneur. So on our conversation today, I have a heavy panel, beautiful people here with me. First of all, I have Martha Mbuvi, who is the coordinator of ACCOSE, and she'll tell us what ACCOSE is later on. We also have Mr. Maurice Omondi, member of the committee organizing ACCOSE. Welcome to this conversation.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
A pleasure to be with you.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
I know there's a conference coming up on matters social entrepreneurship, but I think it's just important, first of all, to set the foundation of, when you talk about social entrepreneurship, what do we mean, Martha? What is social entrepreneurship?
Thank you very much for having us here. Let's start with the word social. Social means that our impact is not just on individual basis. It goes into the society. And then when we talk of entrepreneurship, we're referring to enterprises, innovations, all those. And so when we talk of social entrepreneurship, we're referring to business models that impact our community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's not about the profit that you're getting. Yes, you'll get profit because you need to sustain the project, but then what impact do you have beyond the profit?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a social mission that is based on very deep teachings in religion, that how much are you helping out there? So as much as you're making the money, mm-hmm. are you impacting the society in one way? Probably in environmental sustainability, mm-hmm.
Issues
to do with policy frameworks, issues to do with eradication of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have a whole theory, a whole aspect of zero carbon emission, zero unemployment, all that. So it's, how does my business model
mm-hmm.
impact the community? That's
Definitely.
Very important, either through social innovations, mm-hmm. or just becoming part of the stakeholders of the conversation that's going on. So that's what social entrepreneurship is about.
Definitely. Mm. Maurice, it sounds like a very noble venture, going by Martha's description.
Yeah.
And just based on that, somebody would assume then this should be the mainstay or something that is well adopted globally.
Yes.
But apparently, this seems to be quite strange to the general entrepreneurship culture, and it's something that we're trying to build conversations around now. Talk to me. Why is it not that common, social entrepreneurship?
As my colleague Martha said, social entrepreneurship is a venture where the main interest of the person who started it, the entrepreneur or the business person, is the social or environmental impact. For a very, very long time, we've had businesses going out there to do business, to earn an income, and even to profiteer, to increase profits for the owner of the business. On the other hand, we've had charities which give donations and sometimes this creates a sense of dependency. So social entrepreneurship come into the middle between those who are just interested in profit and those who are doing pure charity. So in the nexus in between is the social entrepreneurship aspect, where business people, you are investing your knowledge in terms of bookkeeping, in terms of monitoring to create impact. So this is something which has been happening, but perhaps it had not been coined the way we now coin it, because social enterprises have been taking place for very many years, but they were not coined in law. In fact, in Kenya, there is no specific law for social entrepreneurship. What we have are laws for pure businesses. So businesses which are now social enterprises which want to create impact, they are lost between where are they to be recognized. Are they to be recognized as NGOs, pure NGOs, or as businesses, or as trust? So that is perhaps the reason why it is not popularly known, because it was first of all not recognized in the current law, and then so there are no enabling factors. In fact, even if you are doing a business which has got social impact, like a social enterprise, when you're registered, they still want you to pay tax just like any other business. You see, you'll be paying taxes just like any other business. And if you register as a charity also, you will still struggle to get that tax exempt certificate. And yet, because you are doing a business which has got a profit, but not just like my sister said, beyond the profit, you also have a social impact. In fact, some of the metrics for measuring social enterprises is the social impact, the number of the number of jobs which have been created. For example, the value you have added to the environment, the number of trees which have been planted. But you can even go to advanced metrics like the amount of carbon which you're able to extract from the ecosystem.
Yes.
So you see, this, as we are facing new challenges in the world, like unemployment, diseases, etc., now people are coming to solve these things through business approaches. So doing it is perhaps the reason why it has not been very, very popular before in terms of recognition, but it's something which people have been doing. But now with the ACCOSE and other networks coming up, we are trying to increase popularity. Okay. In fact, in Kenya, there are more than there's a study that was carried out by British Council some years ago, about 5 years ago, which shows that there were about 40,000 social enterprises taking place, but they don't have proper networks, proper recognition, and that is where ACCOSE comes in to uplift recognition about social entrepreneurship.
All right.
Yeah.
Martha, now just looking at businesses and their foundational principle of social entrepreneurship, it seems maybe, if not all, majority of businesses can sort of borrow values from social entrepreneurship or social enterprises. In one way, it doesn't have to be fully fledged. As Maurice says, sometimes it's a nexus point from two extremes, businesses and people who are in social works meeting at the point of need. But do you think these principles actually can be adopted by each and every single businesses, if at all we are to put this thought of society and well-being of the society even as we try to make money?
Yeah, I think this is something that can be adopted. Most businesses actually have it, but they are not, what would I say? They are not so, they wouldn't classify themselves as social enterprises who are in social entrepreneurship, because they do it as part of their value system because of the Utu and Ubuntu that we have in Africa. But then they are not aware that what they are doing actually is part of social entrepreneurship. Because social entrepreneurship is a value-based system. We are saying this, you're making profit, yes. When you make profit, is it just for you? Is it just for you and your family and your generations to come? Or are you plowing back to the community? So the value system is there. So that it's not philanthropy, like Maurice said, whereby completely there are no profits to make, and it's also no dependency. Because if you go the other way of completely being philanthropic, and so people become dependent what we call the white elephants, which can actually be abused. But then we're also not talking of charity, which is completely off the other side. So we are talking of the nexus between, such that the business model has a value-based system. If I'm starting an industry, am I careful about carbon emission? What strategies are you putting in place to ensure that you do not affect the people around you? If I build along the river, an industry or a building, what environmental impact does it have? So am I conscious of that? So it's a value-based business model, such that whatever I do, I know I have to look at what is the effect or what is the impact on my community, whether it is social, whether it is physical, whether it is emotional, psychological, and even financial. Yeah, so it's a value-based system. In fact, that's what I would say in essence. There's a lot of values that have to go with social entrepreneurship.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at the world, I think one of the major, for those of us, all of us who are very young, even young at heart, if you don't believe you're young.
Young at heart.
Maurice.
Age they say is just but a number.
Yes.
And the definitions of young also vary from place to place.
Exactly.
And
Context-based,
maybe we're coming to it, but like even this conference is basically for everyone.
Yes.
Those who are young by age, but also young at heart, as you said. And one unique aspect, especially for this particular conference, is to bring in all people of all ages.
Yes.
Of course, Kenya, majority of the population is over, those people up to 25, below 25 years, a big percentage, close to 40% of the population. So majority of the target group, those people will come for this conference, definitely will fall between, let me say, 20 to 35 years.
Yes.
But we're also aware that there are also some people who are over 50, over 60, who also engage in social enterprise.
Okay.
And do you know that with the improved healthcare, we have more and more people living longer lives. So in
Definitely.
the future, when you talk of...
I know, that's a beautiful analysis on even age. And we're going to come to the conference. But the reason I was bringing this issue of youth, I think we've experienced very interesting transitions rather. COVID was a major one.
Yes.
It was a major one, and it shifted everything. In fact, post-pandemic, we were told this is the new normal.
Yeah.
Even the conversation we are having right now, I know podcasts were a thing that started a long time ago. But now, when we were spending a lot of time in the house, everyone was like, okay, what am I going to do? Some people decided we're going to buy microphones, start creating content. So there was sort of a shifting moment that the world underwent.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking in regards to social entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there's ever been that moment where as a society, as the world or as a country, we sat down and be like, maybe social entrepreneurship is the way to go because of a life-changing, because COVID was a big one. It was beyond profits. Now companies were not making profits. People were being laid off. You have to cater for the society at large. How do we factor all this? Do you think that was one of the transition points where organizations really had to rethink, not only looking at the bottom line, but also these elements of social entrepreneurship?
Yeah, definitely COVID was a game changer, especially on technology. Before COVID, most of us relied on Skype and email, but COVID came and brought Zoom, brought other means of communication. One of the things it did even change the model of delivery of education. So previously, all education was face-to-face. Now it is blended. We have both face-to-face as well as digital content. And secondly, it also increased a lot of content. In fact, there's a lot of people got into the education sector and uploaded a lot of content onto the website. We now have access to a lot of information where universities decided to give back to the society by having content which can be accessed worldwide. You know, there is this website, I think it calls, not Coursera or someone, where you can access short courses from all over. So COVID also opened our eyes to the level of, the differences between the poor and the rich in terms of even access to basic things like medicine. And that is where you saw some innovation, like even delivery of food to people who are abandoned or those people who are secluded. COVID also opened up other things, and not just COVID, but even the issues of the climate change. We realize that we are living in an environment where we are interconnected. Those people who are in Europe, whatever they do affects what is happening this other side. So COVID was a big game changer. It helped us to look at how things are fresh, digital. People started marketing their things through digital media. There's a friend of mine who previously was selling fish in their shop, but through digital, he started just selling through WhatsApp, and now he has increased his outreach. That's actually increased even the number of people who deliver. So one single person who was employed as a single person, now is employing almost 15 people. So expanding his social enterprise to create employment for more people.
Yes.
So one of the game changers for COVID was increasing access to digital. And then there was also a danger that came with it, because now many of us are online. Then there is the issue of data privacy and security. So during this conference, and now like some of the issues we're dealing with or grappling with is the security of people, because a lot of our content is actually online, whether it is face recognition, whether it is fingerprints, whether it is, and the government is trying to control all this. So that is another area which I can really say. But I think COVID, the issue of climate change, really brought into focus many things, the wars which are happening around. We realize that the resources that we have are scarce. So there's a competition for resources, but also opening up opportunities that you can access things quickly. So, for example, there are some guys who have started apps which shows the cost of or the access of food in a particular area and the cost. So you don't have to rely only on media to get the cost of things somewhere, move it from here to another place.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So we really had to rethink how we do business in very interesting ways. Technological disruptions, which is a big one. But I want us now to go to the conference, because Maurice keeps mentioning the conference, and people are wondering, what is this conference? Yeah. So you have the ACCOSE conference, Annual Africa Conference for Social Entrepreneurship. One of the aspects, Martha, you mentioned is that there was no support system initially. So people are just existing in silos. Whereas there is power in numbers and amalgamation, we can come together and deliberate a way forward. So talk to me about ACCOSE. I mean, this is the 7th edition. It means it's had 6 other editions. So what's ACCOSE? What's it all about?
ACCOSE now is a 7-year-old baby. Because it started in 2017. We've had ACCOSE 1 all the way to 7. There's a year because of the disruption of COVID and all that, we skipped a year. But then, so we are basically, I would say, almost 8 years old, because we used to have our courses in November, but now we've moved them to May. So almost 8, but we are 7.5. And so there's ACCOSE 1 to 7. And ACCOSE is a gathering of people who are ready to have conversations, stakeholders in social enterprises, innovations. And so we bring in policymakers, we bring in educators, we bring in change makers, enablers. All those come together. They convene on this one thing, which is, like it's like a mission, a social mission, to talk about these value-based business models. And when we talk of business models, the layman understanding of business is that shop, duka, what we call the duka, which was, I think the duka began with the Indians. They're the ones who used to call it duka in the early years of what we call duka. It has a history, by the way. So most people, when you talk of business, they think in terms of a shop, a retail shop. No, business models go beyond retail shops. Like, I want to take an example of somebody in garbage collection. That's a business model. It's not a duka, but they are out there in the community. They come to your area, they ask you to pay something little, and they collect your garbage. Now, when they collect your garbage, they go take it back to the relevant places, either for recycling or for disposal. Now, that's a business model that is actually based on a value system in social entrepreneurship. It is offering business, job. There's opportunity for jobs but when they have these youth who go collecting this garbage, there's now the impact in the community in terms of environmental sustainability, but also what are we doing? We are also engaged in climate change in the same time, because at the same time we go out and sort out those the garbage that is collected depending on which place it should be. So there's that issue of the social enterprises that are business models that are based on value systems, but in the past people didn't know that is social entrepreneurship. But now so we are saying to make it visible, to let the community know that this exists, then we have a conversation in ACCOSE, which is our annual Africa Conference on Social Entrepreneurship. It's a Pan-African summit with delegates from all over Africa. Right now we are talking of around 50 countries.
Wow.
We are talking of 50 countries. Over 50 speakers will be on board, both from the government, both from the the private sector, the public sector, the student community, the academia, because there's a day we're even going to have an academia session where the academia, the researchers will come on board and have discussions,
Yes.
even present papers.
Yes.
Then we're even involving the youth. So we have a youth festival where we'll have the youth come together and appreciate what is social entrepreneurship and have this conversation. So there's a lot of learning, a lot of growth, a lot of networking with the different stakeholders in our community.
That's incredible. Everyone has a role to play. And I'm glad you're mentioning this is the 7th edition, 7.5, as you rightly put, since you shifted from December to now almost mid-year. Maurice, Africa, because this is annual African,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
We always have to ask ourselves, where are we from a global perspective?
Yeah.
So when we talk about social entrepreneurship, where is Africa? Where do we rank? And why do we rank where we are compared to other jurisdictions like Europe, the Americas, the Asias of this world? This is Africa. Where are we?
I wouldn't start by comparing ourselves with the others, because as Martha said, Africa is unique, our values are unique, and something which brings us together is what we call Ubuntu or Utu. Utu basically is about dignity and respect for life. So each continent has done their share, but the truth of the matter is that in terms of scholarship, so much of what was happening within Africa was not properly documented. If anything, it was not really, people thought that there isn't so much in Africa. The contribution of Africa generally to literature, to academic research is quite small, less than 5%. And it's not that we don't have so much. It's simply because most of the scholars, those people who reported about Africa were Europeans or Americans, people talking about Africa from outside. So this is now our time to amplify about what we are doing about Africa. Of course, there are great examples of social enterprises which have taken place in other parts of the world, in the US, in Europe, where you can say there's a lot of the advancements in those things they're talking about, creating employment, in terms of addressing climate change, in terms of looking at issues of energy. But Africa is also coming now to the world so that the world knows what is in Africa. And something which is very special about Africa is the human aspect of it, that we are because you are. That is Ubuntu. And that is something which the world is coming to embrace about Africa. In fact, when people come to visit, one thing they find very unique about Africa is the friendship. The kind of philanthropy that we have is you cannot go to somebody's house and eat alone when your neighbor does not have anything. This is something which is different in those other places. You can go to another place in Europe or America, you visit, and they will be eating, and because you just jumped in, they will keep you there waiting as they eat. But in Africa, they will accommodate you. In our tradition, there was also always a food for an extra visitor. We always expected a visitor to come. So Africa has a lot of different social enterprises. there are a lot of and maybe something which you could have started when you began was there are two aspects when you talk of social entrepreneurship and social enterprise. Social entrepreneurship is like the philosophy, the doing. The social enterprise is now like the business or the venture.
Okay.
So this philosophy, the social entrepreneurship philosophy, has been there for a very long time in Africa. That even if it was somebody in the traditional culture, somebody who had more wealth, you didn't restrict this wealth to yourself. You brought in your relatives, you brought in your friends to come and help you to do something. Whether you had cows, you had so many people to help you to take care of the cows. If you are going to do farming, you invited your neighbors to come and help you. You do the farming, they do the planting today, and when you are done, they can go to another place. So to just respond to your question is that it's not about saying we are number 1, 2, or 3,
Yes.
but we've got a big contribution to the world, which in the current or available academia, it wasn't so much documented.
Okay.
So this conference is one of the gatherings that is bringing to the world that this is what Africa has to offer, not only within Africa itself, but to the whole world.
Okay.
It's creating a space for networking, for sharing in terms of legal issues, or our people in Ethiopia doing it, our people in Ghana doing it. It's a space for even sharing about the products that they have and also learning. So it is not restricted per se to Africa alone. We also have guys coming out of the continent.
Okay.
So it's a space for sharing knowledge, and it's not about competition, but more collaboration.
No competition, it's more about collaboration.
Yeah.
Wow, hey Maurice, you have very huge quotes here. To patent them, yeah? Martha, I mean, since it's the 7th edition, there was a 6th one. And I'm really curious in regards to the sort of the structure and the goal of ACCOSE as a conference. Do you have particular deliberations that people can be held accountable to before we move to the 7th one? During the 6th one, what was that set to accomplish? Was it accomplished even as we delve deeper into the 7th one?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. The 6th edition was very successful. For me, having been a coordinator of ACCOSE 5, ACCOSE 6, and ACCOSE 7, which is yet to happen next week on 15th to 17th of May. The 6th edition was very successful. We had so many delegates came, and then we have success stories. For me, what I would go for the 6th is more of what came out of it. Yeah, deliberations were made. We launched some programs. We even launched the African Hub. And so we are now, but when I look back at the success stories, that's what I would really want to applaud ACCOSE 6 for. We have M. Shamba, which was born out of ACCOSE. We have Solberg, which was also born out of ACCOSE. And in the past, like the ACCOSE 3 and 4 and 2, we have E for Impact. But coming back to ACCOSE 6, we have success stories. So for me, that's what I would really look at, because deliberations can be made, policies can be made,
Yes.
but after that, what is it that what can we see out of it? Yeah, so those two were some of our very most successful innovations, or what I would say that were birthed out of ACCOSE 6. The partners that were on board really appreciated, because we carried out our own research. We have data to show, to get even response from how we organize the conference, and also the follow-up after the conference.
Okay.
Yeah, so ACCOSE 6 was quite a success, which I believe ACCOSE 7, hey, let me give you now my slogan for it, bigger and better.
Bigger and better.
Yeah.
Hey, today is the day for slogans. Bigger and better. And I know this is big, over 500 delegates, 50 plus speakers.
Yeah.
That is packed. That is packed. And quite a number of thematic areas do come up, which is very interesting, Maurice. I know you've touched on some of these. First of all, Africa. we have the youngest continent.
Yeah.
So even when we talk about labor projections globally,
Yeah.
everyone is looking at Africa, which is very, very interesting. And it's one of the themes that we are tackling in this conference, the 7th edition, Human
Yeah.
Capital Development.
Yeah.
And I know this is even popular because the president has been talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm going out there, I'm looking for opportunities for you, to
Yeah.
get jobs and whatnot. Maybe just touching on this issue of human capital development. Is there a better approach for Africa? And even what does social entrepreneurship as a philosophy have to offer in solving this labor challenge, especially unemployment problem that the country is experiencing in Africa?
So you are very correct in terms of referring to Africa as the youngest continent in terms of age, with the majority of the people being youthful. Let me say 25 years and below are actually the majority. But as I mentioned earlier, with improved health and access to different services, we are increasingly having also older people increasing. So right now it's a pyramid, but in about 50 years, in fact, it will be almost bulging at the middle. We'll have a continent where majority of the people will be now in the 40s, 50s. But at the moment in Kenya and in Africa in general, the rate of unemployment for the youth is quite high. And this is because despite of that, they've gone to university, they've gone to colleges, but they don't have sufficient jobs. One of the challenges is even the model of training, which in the country Kenya, this is being solved through the curriculum-based, the competency-based curriculum,
Yes.
which is much more practical. So when it comes to human capacity development, one of the focus areas is to improve skills and awareness about even social entrepreneurship as it is, and the opportunities which are there, a lot of opportunities. So one of the areas of biggest opportunities is energy, even access to water, the blue economy, and these areas. So there is a lot of opportunities in social entrepreneurship, which is being focused on when it comes to human capital development. How can you come up with the different ways of making use of the waste that we generate? There's a lot of waste that we generate, but it can be recycled, it can be resized, it can be reused. There's a company that is focusing on electronic waste management. I visited their company in industrial area, for example. And what did I see? They harvest all these dead electronic equipments, and they've employed so many people to do, because it is physical. You have to dismantle the electronic equipment, whether it is a TV or a radio, and they remove, they look at things which can be reused. So they have employed quite a number of people. Those ones who are removing the batteries, which are, and then assessing them whether they can be used, and those ones which can be used are now disposed of in a safe manner. Removing the diodes, removing different elements of the electronics, so that at the end of the day, you find that you can reuse almost 70% of that. So there's a lot of employment opportunities in either recycling of waste. There's a lot of employment opportunities in the use of energy. So when it comes to human capital development, is exposing them to real case scenarios. It's not just the traditional academic being just taught by a teacher and you're just taking notes and then you try to remember. You know, what social entrepreneurs do is more hand-holding and exposure to real-life situations.
Okay.
So you look at a problem, one of the core challenges is unemployment.
Yes.
How can we solve the problem we are trying to solve by also creating employment opportunities? How can we solve the problem by also improving the quality of the environment?
Okay.
See the opportunity which is coming in the electric cars, for example. While some people will say that when we have electric cars, we're going to lose jobs in terms of those people are manning the petrol stations. We have the concept of just transition. How do you equip these people who are formerly manning petrol stations to start manning electric car places?
Yes.
You see? So you create new skills so that they can handle new opportunities which are emerging in the market.
Okay.
There was also the ones for even recycling of water and using cheap methods. So this particular theme on that very first one, which is very key and it was very deliberate, is to provide the skills to the entrepreneurs in terms of what are the new opportunities, what are the knowledge that you need to do, and also what are some of the examples. So you'll be learning by seeing and also by doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. We, upskilling, that's one thing that always comes up. Reskilling, always skills, but evolution of it. I think the conference will be going deeper into that in terms of human capital development, which is very critical. Something you had mentioned, Martha, when we were starting off, it was touching on faith.
Yeah.
Now, globally looking again, Africa, we're very unique, as Maurice has said. Yeah, we are a very unique continent because as it stands now, we are the continent that, when it comes to matters faith, we're very out and very loud about it. We are very religious, as we've been called, yeah? You go to Europe now, churches are being converted into, bars and whatnot, which is very interesting. But there is this issue of faith-driven social entrepreneurship. Based on how the continent perceives issues of faith. It seems the conference will also take a deep dive on how to leverage faith on matters social entrepreneurship. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, let me start by saying that faith-driven entrepreneurship is not anything new. Almost all the schools in Kenya were begun by a church. The old schools. If you go to Friends Kamusinga Boys, if you go to Thogoto PCA, if you go to St. Mark's, almost every school has a name that aligns itself with the missionaries behind it. So when we talk of faith-based entrepreneurship, we are looking at the responsibility and the duty of the church or the religious group. Because and let me say also that this was new in ACCOSE 6. We started faith-driven entrepreneurship conversations in ACCOSE 6 and now ACCOSE 7. Why? Because we realized we cannot ignore the place of religion, whether it's Muslim, whether it is Bora community. Like last time we had a speaker from the Bora community. We had a speaker, actually the Sheikh Ismail was there last year. We had the Catholic Church involved. We had the Pentecostal movement. We had the evangelicals in that conversation. We had Sinapis and others. Okay? So what we're saying is that we cannot ignore the role of religion in entrepreneurship. Why? Because it's a value-based model. And since it's a value-based model, where do we pick our values most of the time? It's either from our mothers back at home and our parents and our community around us, which is now the Utu thing, which is an African perspective, whereby your grandmother, your mother, your aunties pass on values. Okay? But then in modern society, where do we pick most of these values? As much as we are picking them from home, we're also picking them from religion. Our curriculum allows religion. Our school curriculum allows religion. So it's either you are doing Christian religious education or Islamic religious education, or you're doing, depending on the setup of the school. Because even the international schools, they also have religious courses. So we borrow values from religion, so we cannot ignore. It's an aspect of entrepreneurship, not necessarily 100%, but it's an aspect of social entrepreneurship. And that's why this time and last year, we had this conversation. What is the church doing in the community? Like a good example, the Catholic Church, they have introduced milk plants, whereby they are selling milk at a very fair price. So they're able to sustain the project, but also the aspect of nutrition comes in, right? If you go to the Salvation Army, they have projects where they train people how to do some hand skills, If you go to the evangelicals, you find there are people with projects of tree planting. A church can decide this Saturday we are going tree planting. So they're giving back to the society based on some scripture, because the Bible itself, by the way, is very keen on business, what we call the business models. Paul said what? You should not eat if you cannot work. And he himself was a tent maker. And yet he's written 3/4 of the New testament. Where did he get the time to write and also be a tent maker?
Yeah.
Because the values must be given, that you cannot just sit and wait. So it's faith plus action.
Okay.
Yeah, faith plus action, and depending on the religion, because we're not saying it's purely the Christian. No, we also have we also have conversations from other religious groups.
Yes.
Yeah, we have the Asians, we have the Muslims, we have the Christian group
the
is
Hindu.
divided into many.
So many.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
many. And at this point, by the way, let me say something. The best person to even add to that conversation is Maurice, because he's the moderator of that panel.
Ah, Maurice.
Yes.
I see that.
let him give us-
We'll rebrand you to Pastor Maurice as you moderate that. But what are the expectations from that panel?
You know, even if I speak from a Christian point of view, right from the first book in the Bible, Genesis,
Yeah.
where God commands, or rather puts man into earth and says, go and have dominion over everything, the animals, etc. And God was very careful, not say, don't go and just destroy. Become a steward.
Yeah.
A steward in the sense that make it use of it and enable even future generations to use it. So what we have inherited from our forefathers was a very clean environment. One of the champions of the environment and even the entrepreneurship in our country in our own time, in our lifetime, was Professor Wangari Maathai, who used all her life to champion trees. Trees, that is what she was preaching about. She planted almost 5 million trees, which enabled her to win that Nobel Prize. So when you look at her readings and you look at whatever she recorded, she was talking about the uniqueness between the beauty of trees in terms of the ecosystem. The Bible again tells us in Matthew, and there's this famous story of the parable of the talents. You know, the person was given 5 talents, the one was given 2, and the one was given 1. And the master was very deliberate. He gave these people the 5, 2, and 1. And he knew that these people were going to think about it and do something. The one who had 5 brought 5. What did he do? Basically, he did business, and good business for that matter, that was able to multiply to 2. And you can remember that he was even given more prizes.
Yes.
The one who had 2 brought another 2, and he was awarded by the master. The one who was like the typical, many people who say, I'm afraid of doing anything with this business, let me just keep this under the bed. When he came, he even abused the master, that I know that you are a guy who reaps where you did not plant. And the master was very, very hard on him. I said, if you knew that I reap where you didn't plant, why didn't you even put my money in a bank where it will have earned some interest?
Yeah.
So the role of the church, if I start with the church, in terms of social entrepreneurship, is not just a choice, but it's like a command. There's no way the church can be the forefront preaching to people when these people do not have something in the food in their stomach, food in their hands, or even an income. So the church has got a moral responsibility, and this is something which has been taught by most of the religions, as my colleague Martha said, that you have to make use of your skills to multiply and make best use of whatever you have. When you talk of sustainable development, which is a very critical aspect of social entrepreneurship, is how do we make good use of the things we have today and even improve it for the betterment of the generations tomorrow.
Yes.
So that we don't finish everything today as if your children are not there.
Yeah.
So we have to care for this. Otherwise, our children and our children's children will accuse us.
Exactly.
All these religions you've talked about, even Islam, Hindu, etc., all of them believe in some deity that created them, and believe that we have to care for the earth because we are living in a fragile world, you see. And if you don't take care of it, our own children, as I mentioned, will keep on complaining about the future. So, and there are many examples, as Martha has talked about, of the churches, Islam, and many who have done so many things to improve the ecosystem and the overall well-being of the community.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. And our time is almost up, but I have to bring this up. We've recently made progress in regards to matters health in this country. It was a big concern. Doctors were on strike, but at least a truce was found, which is a good thing. And one of the themes that we are handling also in ACCOSE 7 is the issue of healthcare for all, and the role of social entrepreneurship networks in Africa, especially impacting on health, because health is wealth in its own right. Martha, what angle are we attacking this issue of health, since it's a very sensitive one, on especially with that philosophy of social entrepreneurship?
Yeah, we realized that we can't ignore that topic. Health is part of us, and we have so many, would I say, philanthropists who are actually geared on health systems in Kenya or even in Africa. Like the other day, I attended a drive where people were being given free prosthetic legs. Now, that's a health issue. So somebody has lost a limb because of either an accident or diabetes. And so the community, and this was an Asian community, in their temple, they were giving this free prosthetic legs. So what are we saying? We cannot ignore health as part of social entrepreneurship, because if I feed you, I give you education, but I'm not also concerned about your health, then have I really attained what I'm talking about? And so if you look at even some of the churches, they are named after missionaries. Some churches are affiliated to church. I mean, not churches, some hospitals are affiliated to churches. Like you'll find, I don't know why I keep referring to the PCA, because there are so many in Kenya. So you'll find there's PCA, Kikuyu, Eye Hospital, there is a Guru Nanak or any other. You'll find there's always an affiliation to a religious group, whether it is the Asian community or it's a Muslim community. And so we can't avoid the issue of health. Now, in this particular conference, we are attacking it from the mental health aspect, because mental health is key. We cannot ignore what is happening with the tough times that Kenyans are going through. We've seen the rise of suicide cases. We've seen the rise of depression. We've seen a rise in ulcers. We've seen a rise in schizophrenia. And all these are things that stem out of mental health. So the conversation will be more on mental health, as much as it will also touch on how the collaborators and the enablers in the community are also getting involved in health systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Incredible. Maurice, mental health seems to be, I don't know, did you school in the 90s or 2000s?
Which level of schooling?
That's a good one.
Because even now I'm also a student.
Hey, you're a student?
Yeah, I'm still a
PhD
student at
students.
Tangaza.
Okay.
So
That's incredible, because where I was going with that is that back in the day you were told, toughen up.
yes,
Yeah, toughen up. We really didn't, exactly know this is bipolar, for example. Maybe some people had that privilege, but we'll just say, that person anakwanga hivyo, anakwanga crazy. And right now we are in the edge of information. And also in the edge of information, I think people are more expressive. Especially these young people, even as we grow, as you've said, social entrepreneurship is encompassing everyone and bringing everyone together. But this young population, of which Africa is, of which Kenya is very aware of this issue of mental health. And you guys, you've decided at ACCOSE 7, this will be a focus on it. From your perspective, why do you think that is a very critical issue?
due to the pressures which are happening in the society, right from the time, as you asked me earlier, about the issue of COVID, when many people were confined over a long period of time without space for moving around. People are just restricted there watching TV. There are pressures of access to employment. There's a pressure of climate change, like now we have the issue of flooding. And then there's also the whole issue of even technology has got is like a sword with or is it double-edged sword. You see, it has its own benefit as well as its disbenefits. So the more we have access to technology, in terms of getting knowledge, in terms of using it well, It has also become a place for, if you are not prepared properly, it has become like a place where you can get everything. There's free access, including negative media, pornography, crime, all sorts of junk that comes of it. So we are seeing a growth in the number of different types of mental cases, be it depression, anxiety about exams, anxiety about tomorrow, anxiety about where we'll access food. And this is affecting people differently, both male and female. We've seen a number of rise in the cases of suicide happening in our country, both happening for men and even young women. So as my colleague Martha is saying, that this is an issue which was for a long time ignored. And you have correctly said it, that when somebody was seen, wanasema huyu ni kichwa mbaya, what was the name we call amechizi, and yet it's a sickness. It's not just when you see somebody you say that is a mad person. The term mad is not even acceptable. Is suffering from schizophrenia, they could be suffering from depression. So this conference provides a chance to discuss some of these topical matters and how are we handling them. Because as you look through all the themes, even the first one you talked about human capital development, how do you gain skills to handle such issues on mental health? Definitely. When you talk about even agriculture or innovative financing models, there are people who have committed suicide because they went in today's paper, in fact I was reading your paper, I think, where they're accusing some people are selling motorbikes, and the interest you're charged. A motorbike is worth 100,000, but you're charged so much interest that by the time you have finished paying, there's one case where the worth of that guy was being claimed 500,000. You see, and this has driven people into suicide. You have got a lot of debt. You have got a lot of debt. And, this conference now provides an alternative. What are the other options which you can access to get low cost or accessible debt? Okay. You see, we have got philanthropists who like to invest into this space, social impact investors, who want to invest their resources to help young people create more employment.
Yes.
We have great examples like within Kenya, Manu Chandaria, in Nigeria, Tony Elemelu, and many other people who are getting into this space to help young people ventures to get more income. Okay. Yeah, so the issue of mental health is actually cross-cutting.
Yes,
exactly. And this conference somehow is going to give people options. So instead of just looking at life as if this is a dead end, you realize that there are other opportunities to contribute to make the world a better place.
Definitely. Yeah. Martha, in conclusion, Kenya, we say in conclusion 5 times before we conclude. But as we finish up, where is the location of this conference? Of course, remind us of the date you mentioned, the location. Can I just walk in, after having my tea, or do I need to register? All these logistics. Remind us of that.
Yeah, thank you. The conference is going to be at Tangaza University, which was recently given a charter. We celebrate that last Friday. Yeah.
Congratulations.
We had a big celebration. Yeah, so it's going to be in Tangaza University, and the dates are 15th to 17th of May. So 15th and 16th, we have the ACCOSE panels, keynote speakers, master classes. We didn't say that. There'll be a lot of showcasing. And that's now for the first 2 days. Then the third day, we'll have the academia on their own. They'll be presenting papers and conversations around their models, even education models, research models around social entrepreneurship. And then we'll also have a youth festival, which will be a whole day, where the youth come together, showcase what they have, innovations from the youth. There's an art gallery that will be there. There'll be dancing. There'll be all that. So that's going to take place in those 3 days. And this is an improvement because in last year, I think we had 2 days. We didn't have. The third day was just purely for the master classes. So this time we have 3 good days of ACCOSE. We are registering because we need to sustain the project, to sustain the conference. So there's a registration fee of 5,000 if you do 2 days. If you do 3 days, there's 7,500. For the youth who are students, they'll register for the youth festival at 500 shillings. So it's supposed to be 1,500 because it's supposed to be like 3 days. So it's 1,500 for the youth festival. But they can also attend the other sessions. Day 1, day 2, day 3 with 1,500. But even if they are coming only on the third day, they'll still pay 1,500.
Okay.
Yeah, but at this point, we also wanted to say we are offering 3 complimentary tickets. I don't know what method you're going to use.
Okay.
So that we're able to just award 3 people a free ticket to the conference.
Okay.
And so we're saying, karibuni sana. This is ACCOSE 7, which we're saying is a gathering of all the stakeholders, including our entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Because we also have a whole focus on SMEs. I don't think in the conversation we've mentioned that. In fact, one of our chief guests is the youth, the PS for SMEs. She's one of our chief guests. And we also want to hear more conversations even around the new scheme that the government released the other day, credit guaranteeing scheme, which is a financing model, which the National Treasury spearheaded from last week. I think they actually launched it last week. So we have those conversations so that our entrepreneurs, we're also looking at their mental health, their faith-driven, value system, and all that. All these conversations are cutting across all the stakeholders.
Okay.
Yeah, and remember, at the center is the entrepreneur, because these are business models. But then we are saying we have people partnering, we have collaborators, we have change makers, we have enablers, we have educators who are coming for conversations, and we have the government, the private sector, and the public sector coming in. So it's a whole ecosystem.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So 3 complimentary tickets.
Yeah, 3 complimentary tickets,
Yeah.
especially if they can tell us the full name of ACCOSE. What is
Okay,
ACCOSE?
as the first one. Somebody's already Googling that.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah,
ACCOSE?
what is ACCOSE?
Yeah, but you could. I think why do you want to attend ACCOSE? Your why is very important.
Yeah.
Are you a small business? Are you an entrepreneur who started something? Have you been grappling with getting hold on, people can help you on matters social, entrepreneurship, how to impact the society? Your why. Why should you attend? Then if you give us a very good why, so we give you a ticket. Ama namna gani? Yeah. Sorry?
Actually, perhaps as even talking about the dates, even the website.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is available on the website, www.acose.org.
Okay.
So we are on the web. We are on the social media platforms, the ones accessed by all ages.
Yes.
I was once challenged that unless you are in some of these streets, you might not know. So I was asking, which street are you talking about? They talked about TikTok, Instagram, FaceMe, etc. So ACCOSE is on these platforms.
Okay.
And note that aside from attending in person, face to face, we are also digital. It will also be, the people will also be able to access online. Yeah, so you register and you'll get all the instructions on how to access it online from the comfort of your place, either your room or your phone.
Okay.
The sessions will be recorded, so even after the conference, you can still access it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also liked when you talked about the issue of the why, the purpose. Young people are increasingly asking themselves, what can I do to improve the world? What can I do to become somebody of more purpose? How can I live a more purposeful life in this? And ACCOSE provides that chance for you to see what are other young people doing. Perhaps you're only focusing on one line, but as you go through the sessions, as you go through the exhibitions, you realize your passion, that perhaps this is what God is calling me to do, or, So social entrepreneurship is also giving you a chance to, how do you align your career with your calling?
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just doing business for the sake of it, but really doing something which is aligned to what you are meant to do to make the world a better place, as I said earlier.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Allow me to say this. We also have exhibitors. The stand is 15,000, but you can also do a shared stand. And this is for 3 days. So it means that every day is just 5,000. So we have also a shared stand where you can take one side and the other person the other side at 7,500.
Okay.
And then I forgot to say where Tangaza is. People might look for it all over. Tangaza is in Karen.
Yes.
Langata South Road.
Okay.
If you know Nairobi Academy, Mamba Village, on the left. You
Okay.
go towards Kenya School of Law. That's where Tangaza is. So it's not in Langata. That road reads Langata South Road, but that's Karen area. It's only that it was named Langata South Road. It's directly, there are people who know Komboni area. The other people know Bogani. So it's around that place, but it is on Langata South Road.
Okay.
On your way to Kenya School of Law.
All right.
Yeah.
Metuma pin sasa hapo
Tumetuma
properly.
pin.
But asanteni sana. I think this has been a very informative conversation, and just the tip of the iceberg on what to expect from ACCOSE, the 7th edition. Thank you very much, Martha Mbuvi, who is the coordinator ACCOSE. 5, 6, and now 7.
Yeah.
And also have Maurice Omondi, who is the member of the committee that is making this happen. Thank you very much for a good conversation, and hopefully to all of you, you'll create time, register, attend, and repurpose your business and entrepreneurship to a manner that will be for the good of the society. That's it. Bye. My name is Noah Kipkemboi, and we're out.